the co-sponsors who made today possible. So if you're here representing one of the groups I mentioned, please wave so that we can come thank you for all the awesome work you've done. So first, Environment Virginia, Virginia League of Conservation Voters, Virginia Interfaith Power and Light, Divest RVA, Liberal Women of Chesterfield County, NRDC, Virginia Pipeline Resistors, Surfrider Foundation, Mothers Out Front, and Indivisible Virginia. Thank you so much for all your help in getting people out here today. Awesome, so my name is Stephanie Krufer. I'm the field organizer for Oceana here in Richmond. And this is Jessica Sims, the community outreach coordinator for the Virginia chapter of the Sierra Club. I just want to reiterate why we're gathered here today before I pass it on to Jess to kick off our rally with our speakers. So we're gathered here today because the expansion of offshore drilling can have devastating social, economic, and environmental consequences. Virginian residents are speaking up today and asking our elected officials to oppose offshore drilling off of all the Atlantic. And we're at a really critical time. In January, the federal government proposed opening up areas of the Atlantic that have been off of the drilling plan for over 30 years. And we expect the federal government to be releasing a next iteration of this plan in the next coming weeks. So we're gathered here today to ask our elected officials to stand strong against offshore oil and gas drilling. So I'm going to pass it over to Jess to introduce all of our speakers.
I have the pleasure of introducing our speakers, and I just want to thank you all for being here today. Our first speaker is going to be Zach Jarjora. He is the Conservation Manager for the Sierra Club Virginia chapter. He has spent many years working on offshore drilling and offshore energy issues in the Hampton Roads area. And then our second speaker will be Kendall Crawford. She's the Director of the Virginia Interfaith Power and Light and is excited to be at the forefront of the efforts to combat climate change. So let's welcome them both, and first up will be Zach.
Thanks, Jess, and thanks everybody for coming out today. Again, my name is Zach Jarjura. I'm with the Sierra Club Virginia chapter, and I'm the Conservation Program Manager for the state. And what a beautiful day today, right? Let's take a moment just to appreciate that. Thank you, son. So Jess said I've been in this fight for many years. I think there's probably a lot of people here who have been fighting offshore drilling longer than I have. But it has been one of the things, since I've been in Virginia, one of the main things that I've been working on. I come to this issue, this fight, by way of my native state of Mississippi and seeing the impacts of oil and gas operations there. It always blew my mind to go down to the beach in Mississippi and just seeing the industry, the industrialized coast, and the stark difference from when I came here in Virginia and seeing some of the places that we have in Virginia Beach and Norfolk. But when I came to Virginia in 2014 to organize with the Sierra Club, again, offshore drilling was one of the first issues that was brought to my attention, and it's unfortunately been something that we've had to continue working on since I've been here. I originally moved to Norfolk in Virginia, and so I lived there for almost 5 years and really gained an appreciation for Virginia's special coastal places. Has anybody here ever been to Hampton Roads or the Eastern Shore? So you know what I'm talking about. It's beautiful places, right? You've got Virginia Beach, you've got places on the Eastern Shore that there's no other places in the world like that. Buckrow Beach in Hampton, Ocean View in Norfolk, all these places, Back Bay National Wildlife Refuge, these are special places, and we don't want to put these at risk for just money, for oil, climate change fueling fossil fuels. That's not something that we want any more of anyways, especially not to put at risk our beautiful beaches. So from fishing to beach bumming to surfing to whatever else you can do out in the water and in the sand, Virginia's coast is a place to play. But it's also been a major economic driver for the Commonwealth. Virginia Beach alone generates around $2 billion from ocean-related tourism. Our marine products industry, the last time I checked, was like third in the nation in terms of production, so it's hundreds of millions of dollars there. All told, Trump's plan risks around 86,000 jobs and almost $5 billion in GDP for Virginia. So it's not just environmentalists here today saying let's save the whales, or we're talking about economics too, and jobs, but it's not just about that. These places are also ecosystems. There are a lot of little critters that we also want to keep safe. There are dolphins out there in Virginia Beach. We've got the right whale, the endangered right whale. There's very few of those left in the wild, and the Atlantic coast is one of their main migratory routes, and we can't put those things at risk. And it's a place that we make memories, right? The beach is a place that Virginians have been able to go for decades. It's a place where, kids, you see little babies out there touching the sand for the first time and touching the water for the first time. And we want to keep those things clean and beautiful for the future. And it's not just Virginia, it's the entire Atlantic coast. So we need to keep that in mind too, that we're not just fighting to protect the eastern shore and Virginia Beach and Virginia's coast. We want to protect the entire Atlantic coast. So I appreciate everyone being out here. Like Steph said, shit's gonna hit the fan again pretty soon. They're gonna release the final draft plan, and that's when we really need to come out in force and just show again that we do not want this and we will not stand for this. So when you get emails and you get calls from an organization, take that action, show up, keep showing up, and we can stop this just like we did in 2014. Thanks so much for coming out.
So my name is Kendall Crawford. I am the director of Virginia Interfaith Power and Light. We're an organization that collaborates with people of faith to grow healthy communities and advance climate justice through education, advocacy, and worship. Today I'm talking to you all with great urgency. According to a recent United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report, we only have 12 years to limit climate change catastrophe. I can't even say it, it's so bad. 12 years, soon to be 11, because it's already November. The report says that we need urgent and unprecedented change right now. To make this clear, inaction will sentence hundreds of millions of people around the world, particularly in poor countries, to be at risk of climate-related poverty. Climate change and our fossil fuel infrastructure greatly exacerbates the issues that people of faith are already working on, such as hunger, immigration, refugees, and global conflict. People of color and low-income communities are disproportionately impacted by our dangerous energy choices. Creation is already threatened by our continued dependence on fossil fuels, and the idea of opening and expanding offshore drilling for oil off the coast of Virginia is just morally unacceptable. Catastrophic spills and blowouts are just some of the threats from offshore drilling operations. These operations also pose a threat to human health, especially to oil platform workers themselves. Tons of toxic waste, including lead, chromium, mercury, as well as carcinogens such as benzene, would be dumped into our ocean right off our coast. Turning to other members of creation, marine life in the Chesapeake Bay, an essential nursery habitat for more than 3,000 migratory and resident wildlife species, would be threatened. In a worst-case scenario, a single oil spill from a rig, tanker, or pipeline would devastate the healthy waters and clean beaches that are critical to coastal economies. The fossil fuel industry expects us to simply accept all of this because they believe that we do not have an alternative paradigm. But we must let them know that they are wrong. We humans are ingenious creatures, and when we are motivated by love for all that lives, we will find solutions that heal rather than harm, create rather than destroy, and increase health and abundance while addressing our pressing economic needs, including affordable energy and job creation. We are and will remain committed to a future worthy of the next generation, one that harnesses ecological wisdom and neighborly love for a just and healthy Virginia. If we don't keep showing up to counter the fossil fuel lobby and speak up for an alternative vision, we are going to lose. If we want clean energy in Virginia, we all need to talk to our loved ones, co-workers, and friends to engage them in this work as well, especially as Richmonders. We have a special responsibility because we are right here in our Commonwealth's capital. We must show up and make sure that our legislators and our decision makers understand that we care about creation. We care about our neighbors down in Hampton Roads, and we care about a future. We care about a future for future generations. We want them to have a safe and stable climate. We must protect our coastal communities against dirty and dangerous offshore drilling. We must protect them both against climate change and against the horrible consequences of an oil spill. Access to affordable renewable energy like solar plays a vital role in ensuring that every single community across the Commonwealth can become healthier and become more resilient in the face of climate change. Let's make sure our leaders stop protecting the fossil fuel industry, close loopholes for dirty fuels like oil and gas, make the decision to phase out leasing of federal waters to fossil fuel companies, and get serious about clean energy. This is simply a moral question. Will our society sacrifice the planet for the profits of a few? Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts today, and remember, in the words of Margaret Mead, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has.
Thank you all for your beautiful, shining, happy faces coming out here, giving us part of this beautiful Saturday. But we need to make some noise. We're here to tell the governor, way up around the corner, and Shaco Bottom, and the fan, if they can hear us, why we're here, and get some energy back in here. All these great speakers would love some feedback, so let's do some practicing. When they say something bad, let's try a boo. Boo! They love feedback, all right? When they say something you agree with, say, yeah, right on, yeah, woo! Yeah! All right, so when I say whose ocean, you say our ocean. When I say whose beach, I say our beach. Whose ocean? Our ocean. Whose beach? Our beach. Whose ocean? Our ocean. Whose beach? Our beach. Whose ocean? Our ocean. Whose beach? Our beach. Jobs on an oil rig? No, let's can it. There are no jobs on a dead planet. Jobs on an oil rig? No, let's can it. There are no jobs on a dead planet. Jobs on an oil rig? No, let's can it. There are no jobs on a dead planet.
First up is Daryl Downing. He's a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel who served for 24 years all around the world, including at Naval Station Norfolk. He's also the Vice Chair of the Sierra Club's Falls of the James chapter. And after Daryl will be Shauna Daniels. She's a mother, a clinical social worker, an East Carolina University graduate, surfing student, and member of Mothers Out Front, an organization aimed at fighting for a safe and healthy climate for all children. Let's give them a warm welcome.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for coming out on this beautiful autumn day. Yes, I did. My name's Daryl Downing. I served in the Air Force for 24 years at bases around the country and overseas. I was stationed at Naval Station Norfolk for about 2.5 years. You may know that this naval base is the largest in the world. This installation and others in Hampton Roads are grappling with sea level rise. They're spending huge sums of money, our money, right? Tax money, to ensure their facilities will continue to be available to support naval forces for many years to come. This is a monumental effort. Every time I took the oath of office, I swore to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. After retirement, I'm still defending my country against fossil fuel interests, foreign and domestic. Far too many people are chronically short-sighted, particularly when greed is involved. The Department of Defense, other leaders in the military community, and our U.S. senators have been saying for years that drilling off the coast of Virginia is inconsistent with our nation's military mission. The military has been evaluating drilling proposals for years and has clearly stated that oil rigs will have a deleterious effect on the military's use of these waters. Global climate change is causing many problems for our nation and our military. The last thing we need to do is allow drilling in an area that could negatively impact military readiness. There are respected groups that have stated that more than half of known fossil fuel reserves must be left in the ground if we're going to avoid catastrophic climate disruption. Using seismic blasting to locate additional fossil fuel sources in the Atlantic is pure folly and an obscene waste of money. Fossil fuel interests are willing to spend tens of billions of dollars looking for additional sources of oil and gas while the climate spirals out of control. In addition, seismic blasting is known to be harmful to sea life. Whales, other marine mammals, and sea life are already dealing with warming waters as our oceans absorb excess heat. Waters that are more acidic as our oceans absorb CO2 from the atmosphere. And plastics and other toxins that wash into the oceans from the land. Searching for more oil and gas during a global crisis caused by the burning of fossil fuels is foolhardy. This reminds me of a sign that I saw in front of a Chesterfield church. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's moral. It's immoral for fossil fuel interests to be causing harm off our coast to find more fossil fuels to burn that will cause more harm. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change warning is clear. Significantly reduce greenhouse gas generation now, or the consequences will be dire. Science and recent exposure indicate that severe weather events will be more frequent and more severe. This makes sense, and recent history certainly bears this out. While anthropogenic climate change may not have caused the recent catastrophes, scientists have shown that climate change has significantly increased their severity. People are dying in the U.S. and other countries due to the effects of human-caused climate change. They've died in California, Houston, Puerto Rico, and countless other locations. Very regrettably, our communities and citizens will continue to suffer the fallout that can be directly tied to climate change. We'd best read the writing on the wall to get our country headed in the right direction. The U.S. should be leading the world. While oil drilling off Virginia's coast is a horrible idea, offshore wind farms are another story. Dominion Energy has talked about generating 2,000 megawatts of clean energy using wind turbines. This is enough energy to power 500,000 homes during peak wind. I don't know if I'll live long enough to see this project completed, since Dominion is moving at a snail's pace simply to erect 2 6-megawatt test turbines, even though it's partnered with a Danish company that's a world leader in offshore wind. What's the rush seems to be the norm for too many renewable energy projects, while fossil fuel projects get expedited consideration. So in summary, global climate change is bad and getting worse. It's caused by human activity. Drilling for oil off the coast is a bad idea for the environment, bad for the military, and bad for Virginia's economy. The military families, and military communities in places like Norfolk are suffering the effects of climate change already. Recurrent flooding is a serious problem with no easy solution. Continue to encourage elected officials at all levels, near the coast and inland, to say no to offshore drilling in Virginia. It's a lose-lose proposition. One additional environmental note: I am disgusted that Governor Northam would replace Air Board members prior to an important vote. He's turned out to be a shill who's happy to do the bidding of major corporations hell-bent on building unneeded, destructive, and absurdly expensive fossil fuel infrastructure. The good people of Buckingham County be damned, I say no. This is an aspect of the Virginia way that we can live without. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week.
If you showed up here today, you are wonderful. I am here this afternoon as a mother and community member to publicly express my opposition to offshore drilling. Opening up our shores to drilling is a threat to our communities and delays action toward finding sustainable energy that will benefit our children and the future of America. When I was 5, I saw the ocean for the first time, right here in Virginia. I remember the blue bucket I was holding with the yellow cap, my sister splashing in the water ahead of me, the white caps of the waves moving to shore, and the warm, salty air moving through my lungs. More importantly, I remembered the awe, fascination, excitement, and unadulterated joy of being able to play in and next to something, a body of water I'd only known about in story. This one moment was important enough to survive the pruning of childhood memories and always moved me to find my way back to the sea. As my son was growing, I used to watch him run along the shore with his hands stretched out toward the sky, and I could see that same feeling lived within him too. A few years after my first coastal visit in Virginia, one of the worst man-made environmental disasters polluted the ocean, my favorite playground. The Exxon Valdez oil spill deeply affected me, and the images of dying wildlife and a suffocating sea left me with feelings of horror and helplessness. I trusted the adults to protect my oceans for the future, but they failed. Just 8 years ago, something even worse happened. 19 times worse, to be exact. The Deepwater Horizon dumped up to 53,000 barrels, the size of Rhode Island for those of you who aren't scientists, into the Gulf daily without a plan in place to stop it. Once again, the adults failed, and the evidence of this is the oil that still clings to our coasts. As an adult, I realized something even more troubling about my childhood concerns. Decision makers knew what to do about preventing these spills, but chose not to. Right now, as I speak, our leaders are making decisions to move forward with these dangerous rigs. They know the short and long-term risks to wildlife, ecosystems, health, and well-being of people, and the coastal economy, but choose to ignore them. Our elected representatives are making calibrated decisions to use money to divide communities that rely on the ocean and each other to survive. The only way to eliminate risk is to not build at all. New technology cannot eliminate human error. I do not live in Alaska or Louisiana or even the coast of Virginia. But an oil spill has no boundaries and can harm all of us. There are alternatives now and for future generations. I grew up believing that Americans can do anything. When people promote drilling as the only way to resolve the reported energy crisis, keep oil costs down, or create jobs, they are saying that Americans are not creative or smart enough to find other ways of meeting our needs. They are eliminating the very foundation of hope that keeps our country together. They are robbing our children of the right to enjoy a day at the beach. They are stripping coastal residents of clean waterways, pride in their community, and leaving them to deal with the aftermath. In my future, I hope to see that people from all walks of life can come together to reject divisive leadership and stop the destructive forces that have been set in motion to destroy our climate and clean waterways. I stand here today with 3 challenges. I challenge our elected representatives to be original, stand with moral conviction, and make choices that do not lead to the destruction of our precious habitat. I challenge community leaders to reject dirty money and loans against the health of their citizens. Lastly, I challenge all of us to be courageous, take action, no matter how small. Let's make the future that we want for our children as if their lives depended on it. Oil and water don't mix. Protect our coast for us and our future generations.
Fossil fuels peace, no oil.